In use, this is actually quite nice. Power it on, just hold down the power button until it lights up. There's battery level in here, and then there's different settings that you can pre-program. If I press this button over here, I can switch between the different ones I had pre-programmed or last programmed. So you can see I have 36.5. I usually do about 1 psi just over the recommended tire pressure for most vehicles, just because the amount of time that it might potentially take to remove the valve stem, not the valve stem, remove this applicator. It's easy to stick on, but you lose a little bit of psi. All it takes to get started is pressing this button right over here to get going. Hey, it's Mike. Today we are going to unbox and test the Cycplus AL7 Smart Tire Pump. This is something that Cycplus reached out to me and asked if I want to do a little video about this, and I happily oblige. So we're going to take a look at it, and we're going to do some tests on some car tires, maybe a couple of my bikes, and we'll point out the pros and the cons of it. So we're going to take a look and see what's inside the box first. If you haven't heard of Cycplus, they are known really for their little pumps that they make for basically travel, ultralight travel, and bike packing, and just anything like that. So this is something new for them. It's something on the bigger scale of things. So I'm excited to see where they take this. This is something definitely that I would prefer to keep in the car as opposed to take on a cycling trip, or maybe take it on a group cycling trip. Inside you can see we got a nice little user manual along with some details about what's going on inside the box itself. Looks like we got a standard air hose, or a T-hose, nice, a press to valve adapter, a ball needle adapter, a balloon nozzle in case you need to inflate any balloons or any inflatables where you would otherwise normally use your mouth to inflate, a Type-C charging cable, and of course this user guide. As you can see, it has a built-in handle over here and a little storage compartment. We got the main unit here. I have to say, this is a pretty good sized unit. This is something that you would probably keep in the car, particularly if you do go off-roading a lot. This has a little protective screen protector on here, a little screen protector, which you can leave on or you can peel off. And in this case, I had attempted to peel it off. This could be a sample engineering unit, and as I can see from here, yep, I think this is a sample engineering unit. I think your unit will come with a protective thing that's a little bit easier to remove, but I'll double check with that. Down here, it looks like you pull this handle outward, and then you can access a DC jack, which I guess you'll use for DC direct plug power from maybe an adapter they include, and also a USB-C charging section over here. They got a round dial interface. I like this. I really tend to like round dial interfaces for a lot of the gadgets and electronics that I use. It makes accessing them a lot easier. That's one thing I noticed. Another is there's a light function here, light button. Looks like we have a little flashlight over here, and you got the power on a switch over here. Now this has not been charged. It just took this right out of the box. Let's see. Looks like it has some power yet. It's always advised to charge ahead of time before you use this, even though it says this is full. I like that you can minutely adjust. This is so much easier to adjust than pressing and holding down the buttons. It's just much faster. As I knew, I expected to like that already, and really was completely unexpected. So you can preset some settings, it looks like on here. You can preset stuff for the car. So for my car, it's usually about 33. For a basketball, it suggests an 8 psi. For a bicycle, 45. But I ride road bike, so we're looking at maybe about 100 psi. By the way, this maxes out at 100 psi. And this looks like it's for a scooter at 30 psi. You could set up whatever settings that you want here, and it looks like it will remember what you have on there, which is nice. So it's got a few memory functions to go. But obviously, just with the turn of this dial, you can override it and set it up in whichever setting that you need for any of these presets. For instance, I don't really have a scooter. I could set this up for a different car, or for the front wheels versus the back wheels, just a little bit PSI difference. Of course, this is going to be complete automatic. That's the whole point of having the set target PSI on here. It'll turn off once it reaches that point. We'll see if it's smart enough to know. Usually, on the dumber PSI air compressors, it will stop around that certain PSI. And the smarter ones actually reach the PSI and go above it a little bit and then pause and double check once the pressure stops from the pump, and double checks to see what the actual pressure is before it continues. We'll see if this is smart in that way. I'm really hoping that it is, because that is a nice improvement if that is in fact the case. Looks like there's a little fan up here, and it looks like this is just an air vent. And then on here is where we have the extra parts. So here's the balloon pump section. It looks like the rest of it I'm going to have to remove from the bag itself. So this bag contains a USB-C cord. It contains the adapter to use the from the Schrader to the Presto valve. It has the it has the balloon adapter over here, and this is the ball pump adapter. And inside over here, it looks like we have the quick head adjustment on. I'm definitely going to put on the quick head adjustment, because most of the tires that I'm probably going to be pumping with anything this big is likely going to be a straighter valve, and I really don't like having to rotate it on and off all the time. So it's nice that they include one of these. In fact, if they sell these separately, I think I might get a set just for the ones that I do plan on carrying with me, because it's just such a pain to have to put on every single time. And it looks like this is, unfortunately, this looks like it is plastic. All right, so this is a plastic adapter. Just to be clear, this is most definitely plastic, which is a bit of a shame. I was really hoping they would go really high quality in here and make this brass, but this is plastic, so that means you're going to have to be a little bit more careful when using something like this. But you know what? I'm going to try it out and let you know what I think. So the air hose actually comes out from this compartment as well, and this, of course, will rotate on. You know what? I take that back. This is pretty easy to put on, but I am afraid of this thing snapping. So we'll find out whether in use or not this is actually stronger than it looks. It is obviously a really high quality plastic though, but we will see in actuality how well this works. So that's all that's in there. This is fully on now. I'll just drop one of the adapters. And this, of course, is the other adapter I might want to keep in. And I'm going to use my own USB-C power cord to charge this. It doesn't look like in this package they give me the DC power cord. But if you do get a DC power cord, I'll look at the manual again, I'll confirm. But I do believe the DC power cord section is just directly to plug into your cigarette lighter adapter. All right, so I'm going to plug this in to charge, and then we'll do some tests. I'm not sure exactly how long it'll take to charge to full. So what I'm going to do is take a quick look at the manual here, and we'll figure that out together. All right, recharging. All right, each part will do 25. Charger rated at 5 volt. Okay, basically you need to do a minimum 10 watts of charging. So anything that will charge a tablet at a sufficient speed, so 5 volt, 2 amps or higher. Looks like that's what it's recommending. It has a reverse charging option. I could actually use the battery pack in there to charge my phone if I wanted to, and that is automatic. Do not connect the DC power charging cable. Okay, like I was saying, the DC power source, they don't include it with here, but you could do a DC power source from your car. So it could be anything. It looks like it's a standard 5.5 millimeter. Okay, look, it's a 5525 interface, pretty standard stuff. You probably have an adapter if you use anything in a car. So you got cigarette lighter option. You have a direct from a lithium ion or lithium phosphate battery pack option. And then you also have the alligator plugs option. It's pretty standard, 5525. And they do, of course, warn you that you should always start the car. Otherwise, you might run out of the power necessary to charge or necessary to pump up all your tires. Now, it doesn't say when it might overheat or if there's any other options to overheat. And it'll accept 12 volt to 16 volts at 9 amps. So it'll accept a pretty high power rating coming in here. And it will charge as fast as 30 watts is the maximum charge rate that this will do. It's got a battery capacity of 5,200 milliamp hours or 57.72 watt hours. So what that means, particularly, here's some troubleshooting codes. But what that means is a number of things. One is that if you have a four-wheeler, you're going to probably want to plug in a DC power source in here. If you need to pump up a couple of batteries, a couple of tires, It's definitely not going to be enough to continuously pump up 2 giant tires on your off-road SUV, big balloon tires. That's something to consider. This is fully charged, but I'm told that this is one of the more freshly manufactured units directly from China. I know this was shipped over because a little bit late because they had some supply chain difficulties over there in China for some reason. It could have something to do with tariffs or the economy. Anyway, it's fully charged. I only plugged it in for a little bit long period of time. It was just long enough for me to ask AI how long that this thing would typically take to charge. And based on the calculations, if you are able to charge it at 30 watts, nominal, like just 30 watts nominal, you're looking at about an hour to go from 0 to full. So this brings up just the key point that I want to bring up here is that this is fairly a big unit. This is definitely one of the bigger pumps, but it is portable and does have a built-in battery pack. It's great for topping up your tires, checking stuff out, keeping in the garage, but this is not going to provide you with the output that you need to run any hardware. For instance, you're going to run a nail gun. This is not it for you. This is really for topping up your tires. Now, if you're on the go, chances are you're going to be able to pump up and like raise or lower the amount of pressure as needed if you are happening to be doing some light off-road stuff. If you're doing heavy-duty off-road stuff, I really don't think this is going to do it for you. There's definitely not enough specifications here in terms of how it's going to handle heat, like how long this thing can stay on. Those are variables that are not in this manual. And because I don't do any off-roading whatsoever, I'm not going to really be testing that out for you. But if I do, I'll definitely put the details down below. But what I can say is I really like the interface. This is very easy to use. There's an on-off button here again. And then you just choose one of the presets, and it remembers the presets that you set on here by choosing one of these things over here by pressing this button, this main button. So all you need is that one button to power it on and the other button, and then there's a light that's useful if you need to see. All right, so it's got basically an on and off. It doesn't have like SOS modes. It doesn't do Morse code, doesn't do any blinking or anything like that. This is purely so that you can see. So you can see your tire and the markings and the pressures, anything that you might need. Other benefit of USB-C power supply completely that charges. It can also output the charge. So if you are in an emergency and your phone is out of power, you can rely on this to charge your phone. It might charge it up. I want to say because of the size of the battery pack, it might charge up your phone, maybe iPhone Pro Max. I'm going to guess about 50 to 60%. There's going to be charging inefficiencies that happen when you convert from one thing to the other. It's not a full direct one-to-one ratio. So, in a pinch, you could also do that as well. But what you're really going to have to do, it's unfortunate that they don't include it because these cables are probably fairly cheap, is that you're going to want to get a DC plug, all right? A DC plug that will plug in or that will get power directly either from your battery pack, from your car. It'll take anything from 12 volt to 16. Unfortunately, you can't do 24 volt. So a standard light duty pickup car or anything with a cigarette lighter adapter that maxes out at 16 volts, or basically for all intents and purposes 12 volts, you're going to be able to power this all the way through to pump up all your tires without issue, as long as it's not one of those big off-road vehicles. Now there is some cooling, and I think that there is active cooling because this looks exactly like a fan. So if I do get a chance to do a full-on test of this and see how hot this thing really gets, it's not quite summer here yet, I will definitely update and post about that. Check out the comments below or check out the video description. All right, so for now, we're going to go ahead and pump a few tires. In use, this is actually quite nice. Power it on, just hold down the power button until it lights up. There's battery level in here, and then there's different settings that you can pre-program. If I press this button over here, I can switch between the different ones I had pre-programmed or last programmed. So you can see I have 36.5. I usually do about 1 PSI just over the recommended tire pressure for most vehicles, just because the amount of time that it might potentially take to remove the valve stem, not the valve stem, remove this applicator. It's easy to stick on, but you lose a little bit of PSI. All it takes to get started is pressing this button right over here to get going. necessarily about the speed, but it's also about the precision. And once it got pretty close to where the estimated PSI was, or the setup PSI, which gets pretty close, about half a PSI difference, it actually slows down as it goes over so that there's no chance of blowing a tire. For instance, on a car tire, it's not likely I'll blow a tire, but if you have really skinny road bike tires, that could be a bit of a concern. So that's it. Pretty straightforward, really easy to use. If you need to preset this for any other type of vehicle or setting, all you do is rotate this. I really like this. It makes it really easy to adjust the PSI as opposed to pressing the buttons. So this is a pretty large size tire wheel on our Palisade, and as you can see, the hose actually does in fact reach. It's actually surprising how much a PSI has changed over the course of regular driving. The right side of the vehicle, for whatever reason, lost more than the left side. Again, it gets pretty close, between 0.5 and 1 PSI of what it needs to be typically for the settings. So this isn't something that I'm going to use for every single scenario. For instance, I'm definitely not something I'm going to be taking on any bicycling trip, at least not for myself. If it's going to be a major group ride, I'm riding with a bunch of people, yeah, maybe. It makes sense because it pumps really fast, very easy to use, and I could easily put on an adapter for press the valves and any other type of valves that I want, even if they aren't built into the head and nozzle. One negative thing about this, potentially, is that the hose is not really supposed to be serviceable. It's pretty much just attached to the unit itself. Anyways, if you're interested in this, maybe I'll have a link down below, maybe I won't, but if it is a shop link, please feel free to check it out and use those if you're interested in this product. Thanks for watching.